Oh, this must be the podcast.
I'm a political junkie, and in the morning I start off with a hardcore left-wing deal just to get, I don't even like them. I don't even believe them, but I listen so I can know what they're thinking. I have never trusted the government on anything, and I still don't today. And so I was suspicious. What are they up to? Now, the biggest factor that drives them is they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Hello, everybody. I'm James K. Lambert, and this is the first episode of my new podcast. I'm so glad you found it. I am a documentary filmmaker and a professor of film. My new movie is called Conspiracy Theorists Lie, and it deals primarily with the assassination of President Kennedy. I don't want to confine this podcast to any one topic, but the first few episodes all feature experts on the Kennedy assassination that I have befriended online. Today's guest is Ed Cage. I talked to Ed over the phone from his house in Mexico.
So, how are you?
I'm doing great. I am very honored and pleased that you wanted me to do an interview.
Ed runs a popular Facebook group, JFK The Truth. Most online forums like this are just an echo chamber for CTers, conspiracy theorists, a place where they can cheer each other on and create wilder and wilder stories. If an LN, a lone nutter, dares to interrupt their imaginary version of history with the facts, this intrusion will normally result in a lot of insults and childish behavior until the LN leaves or is banned from the forum. Ed's group is very different. You can find many knowledgeable and thoughtful people there, and some intelligent conversations. It's obvious when you talk to Ed that he doesn't see this group as some kind of hobby or amusement. It is a serious mission he has chosen to take on.
I try to do is get both sides, and I'm not as skillful as I wish I could be. You've got to, when you see people throwing mud on the wall and just posting pure baloney, I know it hurts people's feelings to correct them, and nobody likes to be corrected. But you're going to have to do it if you're going to call the thing JFK the truth. You want people to come there. I have a responsibility to see to it that they get the truth. I've also got a responsibility to listen to both sides, and I do. I even solicit them. You got to know what you're talking about. And I'll tell you, it's something that really has helped me a lot, and that is, if I am wrong, I will admit it. People love that, you know. And occasionally I've been wrong on stuff. I thought there was a roll call at Texas School Book Depository. It wasn't an official roll call. They did an unofficial head count, and I was the only one missing. I always admit it when I'm wrong, because you owe that to the people. You don't try to save face, make yourself look good, give excuse. You tell them right up front. I goose. It doesn't come up a lot, James, I swear. But when it does, I will admit it, and I'll listen to the other guys. I want them to tell their side, and occasionally they'll you can learn a lot from CTs, but you're not going to find out what the conspiracy was. There wasn't a conspiracy. There just wasn't.
Ed lived in Dallas for most of his life, and he clearly has a strong connection to the place. It's also clear that he's a very nice and genuine guy, with a patriotic heart.
I was born in Seattle, Washington, 1944, and my dad was a French interpreter. He was an officer in General Patton's army, and me and my mother were in Seattle, but my mother made the decision to bring me to Dallas at 6 months old because we had to care for my grandmother. She was an invalid, and so I stayed in Dallas from 1945 right through 2009 when we left. However, I volunteered for Vietnam, and I volunteered for the Army 3 years, and you're going to Nam. So I did that. So I was out of Dallas during that period. I spent a year in Indochina, which was very rewarding.
I've listened to a lot of people's stories over the years about where they were when President Kennedy was shot, and they never get old for me. Hearing firsthand how it affected them and how it still affects them, it's such a powerful thing. It personalizes history and helps you understand the magnitude of what really happened. This wasn't just a murder of a national leader. It was a body blow to hundreds of millions of people around the world.
I was in my apartment at University City in Denton, Texas. I'd gone to college, I don't know what year it was in, sophomore, junior, whatever it was. And a guy came running in, he heard it on the radio or something. They shot that son of a bitch, they shot him, they shot Kennedy, and he was, I'll tell you who it was. He was very, very wealthy. Warner Brothers Movies, the son, Jack Warner, was there, very wealthy, and he really hated Kennedy, and oh man, anyway, he came in and said that, and I was devastated by it, really devastated and hurt by it, and then I went to my own room in my apartment, and I had the TV on, man, and I saw Walter Cronkite take off his glasses, and he says, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States is dead. And I wept. There's nothing wrong with crying. I mean, I wept. I loved him. I started out as a staunch Democrat because my whole family's been Democrat. And then he's Catholic. We're big Catholics. But I just saw what he was doing, and I believed in. He was very, very conservative, too. Now, I need to tell you, I'm a former state GOP delegate for GOP, so I've only voted for one Democrat in my life. But I couldn't vote at that age when Kennedy was elected. Anyway, I was just moved. That was my president. He was the leader of my country. And I just was touched deeply by it. I was emotional. That was my president. And I hated to see that. Yeah.
Like many other people, Ed was suspicious about what really happened on that day. But he didn't look to conspiracy theorists for information. He looked at the hard evidence.
I have never trusted the government. Let's see, at that age, 63, I would have been 19. I have never trusted the government on anything, and I still don't today. And so I was suspicious. What are they up to? And I had the great privilege of being able to just go down to the Dallas Public Library. I asked my dad about it, and I said, "What do you think?" Because I was suspicious. I said, "Do you believe the Warren report?" He said, "Absolutely, absolutely." So I went down there, and man, people may scoff at this, but it's the God's truth. I went down, and about 2 hours' time, I was pulling those affidavits of witnesses, and the first 23 I looked at, all 23 said 3 shots. Now, you got 3, that's just a coincidence, but that's what happened. And then you got 3 shells on the floor, and you got 1 or 2 rounds that matched Oswald's rifle. And I was like, "Good gum." I mean, it's clear to me he did it, and if he had an accomplice, where in the hell were they? How did? And it was a Chinese fire drill trying to get out of there. He was just lucky. to get away. He didn't have any help on this, and that's why there's never been anybody come up with anything other than assumptions. You know, the top three assumptions were there'd be the CIA, LBJ. Let's see, LBJ, CIA, Carlos Marcello's number one. None of those went anywhere. As a matter of fact, I had very good fortune. The lead investigator on Carlos Marcello is FBI Special Agent Michael Wax. I've known him since the first grade. So I called him. I really have. I was in first grade with him. I called him, and around 2003, I said, "What do you think, Mike?" And we talked for 45 minutes or so. I said, "What about?" I said, "I keep seeing you on TV." He's on TV all the time. He's the lead investigator on Marcello, which was the best lead, because Bobby Kennedy and them had taken him and dumped him off in South America with no money, and in a jungle, and he had the facilities, he had the willpower, he had the motive, he had the ability to bring something like that off. Mike, they called me Eddie in those days. He said, "Eddie, there was just nothing there." And there just really wasn't. And the same with the CIA, same with Castro. They're just, those LBJ is laughable. That's not a fake laugh. I mean, gee whiz. And you say, well, who's got the most to gain? LBJ's president. Oh, man, what to talk about a miserable crime. No, it's not LBJ at all.
In addition to all the time Ed has spent researching the facts and getting to know people intimately involved with the case, him and his wife met in 1969 while working at WFAA-TV, a local Dallas station with an archive of important material on the assassination. In fact, it was Ed's wife Karen who organized all that footage when she first started as an intern at WFAA in 1968.
And that's the reason we know so doggone many people, places, things. I've been down to Dealey Plaza with a number of high-level experts like Glenn Sarlato, who's a close personal friend of Dr. John McAdams, and David Wright. But I spent all day with David Wright, and then with Glenn Sarlato I spent, several days. And then Dr. Ken Rahn is one of the truly, R-A-H-N, one of the truly elite investigators of JFK. And we spent about 4 or 5 days together, and he brought his girlfriend from China. So I've really been in with some really knowledgeable people. I know these people that were entwined in that, and all the places. Well, I sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but I am. It's like ancient Greek philosopher Dizzy Dean said, "Partner, if you can do it, it ain't bragging." And I just know that the places. I know Dealey Plaza and the Grassy Knoll like the back of my hand, man. I know it. I've measured all that stuff. I went down there with the step ladder. I had a measuring equipment. I borrowed a wooden rifle with a scope on it from Ricky Tobias, and went all over the place with him looking for places to shoot. And I mean all over. And there really wasn't one. And I can guarantee you there's no shot from the Grassy Knoll. The only shot there is there, and my MOS in the Army was gunner, G-U-N-N-E-R. I was very good at hitting moving targets. I was gunner. So I was on a tank. I was a tank gunner. I fired the main gun and the machine gun. And consequently, I got a good working knowledge of that. And there's no shot there from in the Grassy Knoll. There's one. If you go to the southeast corner of the picket fence that faces Texas Schoolbook Depository, and then you go back between 8 and 10 feet, there's a place you can shoot. But what you don't see from the overheads and the pictures and stuff is that mound there is colossal. That's the grass. It's a huge mound. You don't see that. Then the two things will amaze you. The first one is grassy knoll is tiny, tiny, tiny. You think, well, it's not. That retaining wall, which was in the vicinity of where Zapruder was standing, is huge. And long story short, there is a shot, but it is on Elm, and you've got cameras, you've got eyeballs, you've got witnesses, and there you are, right with your rifle right over the fence, and people looking, cameras, photography, everybody, and Secret Service agents, and there you are, and plus the pictures, numerous pictures at the time, including Mormon pic. There's nobody there. Now, JFK, Oliver Stone that did that JFK, he did figure out that's the only place to shoot. The problem is there's no tracking space. It's like at the carnival. Did you ever go to a carnival and all of a sudden these little targets, they pop out and you got to shoot them? You don't have any time to track. And it is a tough proposition. And you've got to have, that's crucial, tracking. So there really isn't a shot from the grassy knoll.
Given Ed's expertise with weapons, I thought I should ask him about something I once heard Jesse Ventura say, and a number of other people continue to repeat. According to Jesse, the best shot Oswald had was on Houston, when the car was coming straight at him, not on Elm, when the car was moving away from him. I never believed Ventura, because I know he's not a credible source of information, but I wanted to hear Ed's take on this.
Would it be a better shot coming straight on Houston?
No, absolutely not. You got a number of problems there. You got a windshield. The biggest problem is you got rows on both sides and in the front of people looking at you as you're firing. Then you got your target is in the back seat there, and he's, gee whiz, he's in with 5 other people, and you got to weed him out. And in the instant you fire, everybody, Secret Service agents and all kinds of hundreds of witnesses, where do they look? Up there. Now, as you go past, then you're firing from the back, and there's a tremendous advantage in that. That shot coming down Houston is a one-time suicide shot. You better hit it because it's just not a good. I've looked at it seriously. I've been up, obviously, to the 6th floor and looked at it with that in mind. I wouldn't even consider. You get those shots were easy. Oswald fired. The longest one was 89 yards. That's easy. The big mystery that's still left is why did that first shot miss? And I can tell you with some great deal of confidence it occurred between 155 and 160, but we don't know where it went. Now, I went down to where Teague was standing, and I went there with Glenn Cerlato, I went there with Dave Wright, I went there with Dr. Ken Ron. These are all heavyweights. And you can look up from there to the 6th floor window and the angle right about where 160 would be, and it is 100% dead on. Now, my theory as a gunner, and this is a theory, this is a subjective theory, I think he brought the scope for a reason. I think he was using it even for the first shot, which he's right on top of it. I think I spent half my life in the Army looking through a scope. When you don't have peripheral vision, everything is 4 or 5 times bigger, but you don't have any vision. I think he was tracking, and then boom, that tree came in, and I think he attempted to abort the shot, and it somehow got off. That angle is 100% dead perfect right over to where Teague was standing. And I think that's hitting that curb there and blood splattered on him. I think that came at the first shot. Now, I will say this, Teague, who's a friend, I've been to his house multiple times, talked to him before he died multiple times. One time, Glenn Serlato and I spent 4 hours over there. He'll listen to you. But he does not think the first shot was where he got hit. He's a conspiracy theorist or something, but...
CTers love to obsess over real and imagined details of the case. But Ed makes it clear that the overwhelming weight of the evidence points to Oswald, and only Oswald. As he explained to me a couple of times, there is such an obvious pattern of evidence here that you can't reasonably dismiss it or sidestep it, if you are being intellectually honest about the case.
The pattern is just something, and there's so much hard evidence. The CTs don't have much of that at all, and they sure don't have a pattern. That is profoundly convincing, the pattern. It really is the most important ingredient. I'm talking about things like the 3 shots on the floor, his fingerprints on the rifle. He owned the rifle. It was in the Payne garage. He removed it. It had fibers from the blanket on it. His fingerprints on the sniper box. His fingerprints on the bag. He was seen carrying by Bonnie Randall and by Buell Fraser, seen carrying a large, bulky, brown paper bag. Well, guess what they found up there? Guess whose prints it had on it? These are things, the matching of CE-399, that's the magic bullet, as you know, went into the base of Kennedy's neck, exited his throat below the Adam's apple. That matched Oswald's rifle. That's the pattern I'm talking about. The rest of the stuff is really, really peripheral. It doesn't amount to much.
One of the things that many CTers like to focus in on is the question of motive. Oswald's motive and Ruby's. As if it were impossible for 2 unstable people to be in the same city at the same time and commit high-profile crimes for reasons that made sense only in their minds.
I think it's a good guess that he wanted to be somebody. He took a shot at General Walker. He wanted to be somebody. He was a nobody. He wanted to be somebody. He wanted to be noticed. He saw Kennedy as he saw Kennedy as anti-Cuba. Well, of course he was. The Bay of Pigs tell you that. And then he was pro-Cuba. He was pro-communism. Kennedy was anti-communism. But you try to screw in logic to a nut's brain, and it's an unrewarding experience. But my best subjective, educated guess is that he just wanted to be somebody. And by God, he got in the history books in a strange sort of way. Another thing that is really, people think that some of them do, it's becoming less and less. LNs are winning this battle easily. But they think that Ruby may have been put up to killing Oswald to keep him from talking. That didn't make any sense. Ruby got notice from a stripper in another state. She wanted him to wire her $25, so he went down there. I've been down to that Dallas police station. I've been down that ramp. I've been inside the Dallas police station. But the wiring, the Western Union thing is down there. It's in the heart of downtown Dallas. And he was there, and you don't bring your dog with you to a hit. That is preposterous. And but the truth is that it was happenstance, and he saw a big crowd down there, and I'm pretty sure he knew what it was, but he didn't intend to time it that way. In fact, they had changed the timing on it. He just got lucky on that. He went down there, and It's not hard to do that. You got a cop out there that's trying hard to watch, and there's a lot going on. All you got to do is just walk down there when not looking. And he the opportunity presented himself. He always had a loaded gun with him because he carried a ton of money, like $6 grand or something. So there's nothing to that, and I've never been able to connect. Well, nobody has. The CIA or Castro or Carlos Marcelo was the best lead. None of them worked.
I asked Ed why he thinks so many people continue to believe in a conspiracy, and that got us into more of why he does what he does.
It's pretty sexy. It's romantic. It's exciting, a conspiracy. Now, the biggest factor that drives them is they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Most of them really and truly have not done objective, intense research. They hadn't done it. And I know what that sounds like if I say it, but it's true. Once you do that, really do that and check out these hard evidence. The ballistics, did it match the rifle? Did he buy the rifle? Yes. Or was it prints on the sniper bag? Prints on the rifle? Yeah. Prints on the bag? Yeah. Was he seen with the bag? All these things, and then tip it. If you count all the people that were that he saw, like Brewer and some of those people on the way, and even one of our forum members, Griffin, saw him leaving. Then there was 10 witnesses that either saw him do the killing of Tippit or saw him leaving the scene. That's pretty powerful. It really is. When I try so hard to solicit CTs, I want to hear from them. Not only to get their sides, but I like to explain to people why these conspiracy theories don't hold water. And you sometimes you irritate people. Nobody likes to be told that they're mistaken about anything. And there's not always a diplomatic way to do it. But nonetheless, some good can come out of it. And over the years, things have changed. It used to be everybody thought there was a conspiracy. And now it's just narrowed down considerably. The public is not that interested anymore. But that leaves is the real buffs that dig into it. And all the top authorities in the world, all of them, are lone nutters. Every last one of them, all the top authorities in the world, they really are. I mean, if you had to name the top 20 authorities in the world, I would say that's true. Now, there are some exceptions, like Harold Weisberger, who's dead now, was awfully good. As I said, Martin Shackford's awfully good. Barbara Junkarian is awfully good. But none of their stuff sinks. They can find obscure things that you can learn a lot from them. But they can't make the linkage. They don't have the pattern. In a nutshell, James, there's something fishy here, and that won't cut it. You've got to have a pattern. You've got to have some hard evidence. You've got to have some powerful linked circumstantial evidence, and you've got to have some common sense in there. And I've had the rare pleasure, it doesn't come up very often, of convincing people. It doesn't come up as much as you want it to, but it really doesn't. But when it does, you feel good.
Ed has been retired and living in a little town in Mexico for the last 6 years.
We both retired early. Not, the earliest we could, 62 and 63. And we went to San Miguel de Ente, and then we went to Lake Chapala, Ajijic, and this is the best place to be. We love it here. I love the people, and it's 93% Catholic, and we're big Catholics, and they have a lot of respect for women and children. Ahihika is not just a bump in the road. Well, it's small. It's about, I don't know, 30,000 people, but we got several celebrities that have houses here. John Boyd's got a house here.
Even in this fairly remote location, Ed recently encountered a number of people interested in the case when a local movie theater replayed a very inaccurate British television series, The Men Who Killed Kennedy.
There was 125 paid attendance at a movie theater, strictly on JFK assassination, but they were all CTs. And, well, I'll take it back. There was at least one or two that were lone nutters. And they didn't want to hear what I had to say, and they booed me. And not all of them, but about a third, and that's enough. That's enough to make an impact. And then about of the 125 people paid attendance, about 25 walked out, but they were asking me stuff like, well, how did that frontal entry wound in the neck get there, you know, if there wasn't a frontal shot, you know, and that caliber stuff. And then when you tell them what happened, they didn't like it. But at the end of it, they did have another expert there. And after they filed out, it broke up in a hurry. They straightened him out. He told them that everything I said was true.
I told Ed that a lot of what drives me is that I believe conspiracy theories do damage to public discourse and make people needlessly paranoid and unwilling to constructively participate in civil society. I was curious what Ed thought about this, and if conspiracy theories worried him.
I wondered your thoughts on that, like conspiracy theories in general.
Well, that's very kind of you to ask. You make me feel important. I'm concerned about that because the public does not trust the government, and I'm one of them. However, on this thing, they did it right, for crying out loud. LBJ appointed Earl Warren. He didn't even want the thing. And they put together a blue ribbon panel. Of all times, you got to let everything go. You got to get the truth, and nothing but the truth. And they did it. And then to see these people come up with this and that, and they can't make any linkage out of it. The Warren Commission was one of the stellar, finest moments of our government in government history. You know, it just outside of the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence and stuff. The Warren Commission report, they knew it had to be perfect, and it pretty well was. They didn't have the autopsy photos, except for Earl Warren's the only one who had it. But and then people point, well, they made this. Of course, you write that many volumes, you're going to make some errors, for crying out loud. I will make a confession to you. I try to be as open-minded as I can, but I've heard literally thousands of conspiracy theories and stuff, and I've read some conspiracy books, but I don't buy them anymore. I mean, I know there's not much I can learn in that area, but it's just not there. After 53 years or 52 years, it's 3,000 books. You got tens of thousands of researchers, tens of thousands of media, electronic and printed material people wanting to make a name for themselves. And boy, you will if you can come up with a conspiracy. You're set. But none of them could do it. And the reason is it's just not there.
I am reminded of something that Aldous Huxley, the author of A Brave New World, once said. That men do not learn very much from the lessons of history is the most important of all lessons that history has to teach. He's probably right, but I'm glad that there are people like Ed out there trying to light a candle rather than cursing the darkness. If you still have questions about what actually happened in Dealey Plaza on November 22, 1963. I highly recommend that you join Ed's Facebook group, JFK The Truth. The knowledgeable members there will help you separate fact from fiction. Of course, I also recommend that you see my documentary, Conspiracy Theorists Lie. It's available at nomagicbullets.org, indieflix.com, and through Amazon's streaming video service. I hope you enjoyed my first podcast episode as much as I enjoyed making it. Please join me next time to hear my conversation with political science professor and Kennedy expert John McAdams.
Thank you for listening to This Must Be the Podcast. Our host is James K. Lambert. Our music was composed by Steve Yeager, and I'm the announcer, Keith Kopatz. This Must Be the Podcast is a JamesKLambert.com production.
Look, my phone is starting. I think we turned it. You can't hear it, but it's going deet, and that means that my battery's running out.
Well, thank you very much.
You're a gentleman, and I'm glad to be your friend, James.
I'm glad to be your friend, too. Thank you very much.
All right. Adios.